This is a Squiz podcast. We're your shortcut to being informed.
The Weekly Wrap is the week in news. I'm Larissa Moore.
And I'm Jodie Spears.
I'm getting kind of cosy in the Weekly Wrap studio, Jodie.
It's quite lovely having you here. This is our first one together.
It is our first podcast together. I'm filling in for Claire this week. Let's get into it. We are starting today with Prime Minister Anthony Albanese's meeting with US President Donald Trump and that critical minerals rare earth deal.
Yeah, then we'll run through the latest in the Russia-Ukraine ceasefire talks, the fallout from the release of Virginia Giuffre's posthumous memoir, and the Louvre heist.
Oh, I'm obsessed with that story.
It's not good.
Let's get into it. Before we dive into international politics, though, Jodie, we're going to do a bit of a pop culture public service announcement. 6/7. It's everywhere on the internet this week. It came across from CNN, and we talked about it in the Squiz Today newsletter, but it was an article from the Fin Review that made us go, ugh.
The Fin Review of all places.
I know, it's the explainer you're going to get on internet and kid pop culture stuff, but 6/7, what is it?
Look, I've been hearing this quite a lot because I have a 10-year-old, almost 11-year-old son, so it's hot in their world. Definitely the latest thing in internet kid meme slang. I'd love to know how these things really start and get going. But if you're in a classroom around kids, they're answering everything by saying 6/7 and like
weighing their hands up and down. Yeah, it must be extremely irritating if you're a teacher.
I bet it is. But, you know, they've dealt with it all before.
Yeah, nothing they must get something new all the time. Skibbity Riz comes to mind.
That's right.
But as for how it started, apparently originally a rap lyric from someone named Skrilla, and then it was a US-American basketball player called Taylor Kinney who did this 6/7 thing. He was rating a Starbucks drink. Then it got picked up by another kid on TikTok, and then as it does, it snowballs. It's everywhere. What does it mean, though?
Yeah, well, that's the question.
Yeah.
I was told that it was actually the height of some basketball player. That's what my son told me. So, look, no one seems to really know the origins, but it means absolutely nothing, apparently. It's the latest skibbity toilet, if you were around for that conversation. Like you say, yeah, came from a rap lyric from someone called Skrilla. So I've been deep in the Skrilla videos this morning, having a look at those, and the rest of us are just scratching our heads.
Main takeaway, it doesn't mean anything. They're not saying anything dodgy. They're not making fun of us, oldies. It's just the kids.
Yeah, don't be offended.
Let's leave it there. On to slightly weightier news topics. The big one that carried across the week was Prime Minister Anthony Albanese's meeting with US President Trump. Critical minerals rare earth deal and China's reaction to it.
Yeah, this really played out over a number of days. The meeting delivered a significant critical minerals deal. Both governments will invest at least $1 billion each in the coming months, so about $3 billion Australian dollars all up. That money goes into projects worth $13 billion overall. The framework's designed to break China's stranglehold on the rare earth processing industry. That currently sits at about 90% globally.
Yeah, so a stranglehold is right. The basics of the deal are pretty straightforward. It's joint funding for projects, including Alcoa's gallium plant in Western Australia and Gina Rinehart's Arafura rare earths mine in the Northern Territory. There's also commitments to speed up approvals and block the sale of these operations to foreign powers on national security grounds. That's one element of the meeting, though, was that rare earths deal. Overall, lots of eyes, obviously, on Trump meeting Albanese, widely reported as a diplomatic win for Australia.
Yeah, certainly. And more than that, I think a win for Albanese. The ABC's Jane Norman said that he got everything that he came for. He got that minerals deal. AUKUS seems to have Trump's approval. There have been lots of questions about that. Overall, the Australia-US alliance has been reaffirmed. Analysts say doing that without Trump demanding higher defence spending in our country was notable and quite an achievement.
Not so happy about it, China.
Yes.
Their state media outlet, the Global Times, ran this piece comparing the minerals deal to Australia's warplane intrusion in the South China Sea. They say we've pledged our allegiance to Washington instead of acting independently.
Yeah, it's been a tricky week for that Australia-China relationship after a Chinese fighter jet released flares near an Australian patrol aircraft during a routine surveillance flight in the South China Sea. They accused us of illegally intruding into their airspace, said that we were provoking them. So to explain that warplane intrusion comment, Beijing is linking the two events.
And it's worth staying with these regional tensions for a moment because there's a Taiwan element to this. Following that Albanese-Trump meeting, the Lowy Institute, which is one of our premier think tanks, they focus on foreign affairs, they picked up on something Trump said in the press conference. He claimed the US military is and this is the quote, the strongest in the world by far. It's not even close. He said China won't invade Taiwan because nobody's going to mess with that.
It's notable because military analysts say that's dangerously wrong, particularly when it comes to Taiwan. One assessment is that if China wanted to invade Taiwan and the US mobilised, China's missile forces could destroy 45% of American combat aircraft in the Pacific in just the first month of a war. That's according to the highly respected International Security Journal.
So the military balance across the Taiwan Strait is much closer than Trump is saying. Some say it's actually a toss-up. The point is that these experts say that Trump's confidence about American military supremacy could lead to disastrous decisions if he genuinely believes it's not even close. He might take risks in a Taiwan crisis that could affect everybody in the region, including us.
Yeah, we wanted to point that out because it's only the second time Trump has publicly spoken about Taiwan since taking office in January. One quick domestic angle here. The coalition leader, Susan Lee, initially called for our ambassador to the US, Kevin Rudd, to resign after a public put down by the president over there.
Yeah, this is probably the moment out of that meeting that had the most cut through, got the most attention. Trump was asked by Andrew Clennell from Sky News about some less than flattering things former Prime Minister Kevin Rudd has said about Trump in some old, now deleted tweets.
Very awkward.
Yeah, so awkward. Trump responded that he didn't like him and probably never will. Susan Lee went on to say that if the ambassador becomes the punchline and the PM's laughing at him, he should go. That was her response.
Yeah, she's now walked that back after a couple of notable people backed Rudd staying on in that job. Former Liberal PM John Howard, for example, said that Rudd's doing a very professional job and that he shouldn't resign. And another former Liberal PM, Malcolm Turnbull, was even more direct about it. He said Rudd's been doing an excellent job and suggestions that he should quit were bizarre.
It's tricky for her. Lots of eyes, of course, on these international trips. Tricky for an opposition leader because if it goes well, our Prime Minister is out there looking very prime ministerial on the world stage. And that's not the last time we're going to be talking about international affairs over the weekend because we're going to be covering a fair bit of summit talk in our What's Coming Up podcast tomorrow. So if that's a bit of sizzle for you to tune in tomorrow, I don't know what, international politics, summit season.
It's certainly a tease for some.
On to three other stories from the week now, starting with some developments in the Russia-Ukraine ceasefire talks. This one might have flown under the radar because the news was pretty dominated by the Prime Minister's US trip, but there are some setbacks we're going to get you across.
Yeah, so Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump were planning to get together for a second summit in the next few weeks to try to thrash out a peace deal. That meeting was supposed to take place in the Hungarian capital of Budapest, but it's been called off.
Would have been a waste of time, according to Trump. It was clear that no deal would be reached. The US president said the timing wasn't right and the summit would have to take place at another time in the future. He said, quote, "Every time I speak with Vladimir, I have good conversations and then they don't go anywhere."
Yeah, Trump has changed his own stance several times here. When you're trying to follow the bouncing ball, it's just bouncing all over the place. He's acting as the middleman, of course, in these negotiations. For a long time, he was warning that Ukraine would likely have to give up some of its territory in a peace deal. He then changed his position quite dramatically last month, saying that he thought Ukraine could actually win all of its land back. Now he seems to have gone back again and changed his mind again.
Yeah, he now says he doesn't think Ukraine will win all the land back. Trump and Zelensky met at the White House last weekend. The encounter was described as tense. Trump was reportedly yelling and swearing at Zelensky. He wanted him to agree to a deal.
Yeah, we've mentioned before that the Donbass region in eastern Ukraine is at the centre of this disagreement. Russia is holding out for a deal that would confirm its control of that whole area, along with other parts of the country, and Ukraine just won't agree to that.
Trump's suggestion this week was that both sides stop where they are right now. He says the Donbass region should be cut up because it's currently cut up anyway, and everyone should just stop fighting at the current front lines and go home.
Putin sent a bit of a message after his summit with Trump was cancelled. His military launched a series of missiles from the land, sea and air. They said that they were testing procedures for the launch of nuclear weapons. These tests were pre-planned, according to the Kremlin, but they've still renewed concerns about an escalation of this war.
Yeah, and there was a response to that from Donald Trump. He authorised tough new sanctions on Russia's biggest oil exporters, along with banks and other companies that support Russian industry and its military. The Russian Foreign Ministry said that these were extremely counterproductive to the Ukraine peace process.
Until now, Trump has been using trade measures to put the pressure on Russia. So he's been hitting countries like India, for example, with higher tariffs because they've been buying Russian oil. The new energy sanctions are an escalation. The former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev responded by saying that the US is our enemy and their talkative peacemaker has now fully embarked on the war path with Russia.
Moving on to another big international story now, the release of Virginia Giuffre's memoir. She was the most well-known victim of pedophile and sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein. In her memoir, she tells how she was trafficked for sex with powerful men like Prince Andrew when she was a teenager.
Giuffre finished writing that book before taking her own life in WA in April this year at the age of 41. Its release has really brought this whole terrible saga back into the headlines.
In the lead up to the book release, it was announced that Prince Andrew would no longer use any of his royal titles, such as the Duke of York. Technically, he's still a prince, though. I mean, Act of Parliament can take that away.
Yeah, it's thought that by making this move of his own volition that he was trying to get ahead of these further revelations about the scandal. For starters, this week, a leaked email appears to show that Andrew asked his taxpayer-funded bodyguard to dig up dirt on Virginia Giuffre.
Yeah, that is something that's now being investigated by the Metropolitan Police. Emails that also came to light were some between Prince Andrew and Epstein, where Andrew wrote, "We are in this together," after the photo emerged of him with Giuffre.
Yeah, not a good look. He also wrote, "Keep in close touch and we'll play some more soon," which just sounds so creepy, given what we know allegedly happened. Those emails were from 2011. Andrew had previously claimed that he cut off contact with Epstein in 2010, so it's claimed that he lied to the public when he said that.
The working royals clearly now want to distance themselves as much as possible from Andrew. Prince William is said to hate his uncle, want nothing to do with him. It's been reported that he won't be invited to William's coronation, won't be there at Sandringham around Christmas time, and may actually never be seen in public with the rest of the royals again.
Yeah, there's no royal scandal like this in living memory, according to the royal historians. It's fair to say that the public has very little tolerance for Andrew after all of these revelations. Doesn't help that he's living rent-free in a huge mansion on the grounds of Windsor Castle either.
No. I haven't actually read Virginia Giuffre's book at this stage. It does sound extremely harrowing. One part in particular describes a really savage assault inflicted on a young Giuffre by someone she calls the Prime Minister. This person hasn't been named, which has raised some questions. Why is Prince Andrew named and not others?
Yeah, it's been speculated that that's because she had a photo of her and Andrew, so there was some sort of evidence there. Giuffre's co-author of her book, for her part, says that it shouldn't be up to the victims to out the perpetrators, that should be a job for the authorities, and they presumably have the relevant information.
As for who that Prime Minister is, you don't have to go too far on social media to see some of the names being bandied about. There is one in particular, but for the moment, it's all speculation. Obviously, we're not going to name it. It has certainly increased calls for the Epstein files to be released, so all the perpetrators are exposed.
Yeah. Moving on to our last story in the list for this week, Larissa, the brazen daylight robbery of the Louvre in Paris. I would say that it was like something out of a movie, but I feel like in the movies, this would have happened in the dead of night and there'd be some really sophisticated way of entering. Not so much at 9:30 in the morning on a random Sunday when visitors were actually wandering through the museum.
Brazen robbery is what it's being called. I can't get enough of the story. We'll run through it, but I also listened to a great ep from the New York Times, the Daily podcast, which covered it. So that's a little recommendation from me here. The thieves pulled up outside the Apollo wing of the Louvre. Can't say it as well as you. That's the side that faces the River Seine and houses the French crown jewels. The thieves used a ladder mounted on a vehicle to climb up to the first floor. Apparently, this is a pretty common sight in France. People use it to move in and out of their apartments. You think of those rickety stairs and those tiny elevators. I wouldn't want to be trying to get a couch.
You're a nightmare.
Nightmare. They used tools like a battery-powered disc cutter to take the glass off the window, and that's how they got in.
Yeah, anyone looking on might have just thought they were regular maintenance workers.
They had high-vis vests on and
looked like they knew what they were doing, and they did. After they got in, they smashed the cabinets and they helped themselves to those jewels. The whole thing was over in less than 8 minutes. The thieves then just escaped on scooters into the Paris traffic and haven't been seen since.
less than 4 minutes inside. Some pretty quick work. Not the quickest, apparently, but still, to be all done and dusted in 8 minutes and get away.
Wish I was that efficient.
I know. There is a couple of really good memes doing the rounds on social media, and it's like, if they can rob the Louvre in 7 minutes, I can clean my room. It's like,
That's right.
use that for motivation.
Yeah.
8 pieces of Napoleonic jewellery were taken, including a necklace and a pair of earrings from Napoleon's wedding gift to Marie Louise, a tiara belonging to Empress Eugenie containing 2,000 diamonds. One of the items, a crown that belonged to Napoleon III's wife, was dropped on the side of the road and damaged on the way out.
Whoops.
Yeah.
The jewels have been described as priceless, but I did manage to find an estimated value, 88 million euros, which is about 157, almost 157 million Aussie dollars.
Big, big money. Experts on international art theft say it's part of a growing trend towards this basic smash and grab type of crime. It's about the material value of the stones and metals rather than the significance of the artifacts themselves. It's thought that these are likely to be dismantled, pulled apart, melted down, and the jewels themselves sold separately.
Just makes it more of a tragedy. That could have happened already. The consensus seems to be that these pieces would be too hot for a private collector to want. They wouldn't be able to show them to anyone ever. It's just too high risk for that. So they reckon that stealing to order for these sorts of private collectors is something that just happens in Hollywood. No real life.
Now, you might wonder why thieves would target one of the most famous museums in the world instead of just your regular jewellery shop, your Cartier down the road. One expert interviewed by The Guardian said that most stores these days would actually be more secure than the Louvre.
Yeah, that's right. This has really highlighted how vulnerable institutions like museums are. Apparently, governments have cut back on spending on law enforcement and also on culture spending since COVID. Doesn't help also that museums are often in ancient buildings. The Louvre, I think, is about 230 years old, so it's harder to secure those buildings.
Yeah, the head of security at the Louvre was pretty open about this. She said the CCTV system is weak and aging. It was one camera. It was facing the other way. Didn't capture the thieves at all going in.
Unbelievable, isn't it? The whole world now is across that wetness in security, so hopefully they put some money in and beef it up before someone else has a crack.
On to our recommendations for the week. When we weren't talking about 6 and 7, going, what the heck is that? We were talking about Radio National's top 100 books. This is your reco.
This is my reco. I very much enjoyed this on the weekend. I must admit I didn't listen to the radio segment. I just loved seeing the updates pop up on my social media. One shout out that I had was to number 55 on the list, Girl, Woman, Other by Bernardine Evaristo.
Yeah.
Read that one a little while ago and I'd sort of forgotten about it, but I really enjoyed it. It's one of those books that has sort of 12 different stories, 12 different characters that it follows. Number 1, of course, Boy Swallows Universe by Trent Dalton.
Our own Trent Dalton.
Great choice. There were, plenty of controversial comments online. You can't please everybody, but I really enjoyed that one. Bryce Corbett did a fantastic interview with him as part of the Call Sheet series. So if you're interested and you haven't got to it yet, then that's worth having a listen to.
Yeah, it was awesome to get a chance to chat to him. We'll put the links to that one in your episode notes. My recommendation this week is actually an Instagram account. Claire and I were talking through the week because she bought herself a sewing machine and I was saying, oh, are you handy that way? And was showing her this Instagram account called by Geneva Van der Ziel. I'll put the link in the comments. She does a lot of upcycling of furniture. She makes a lot of her own clothes. She repurposes stuff. And I'm not handy at all. I'm not a DIY girly and I don't own a sewing machine, but I love to see her content pop up because I think maybe I could one day.
One day when I have time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have spotted her on there before and she has some fantastic ideas.
Yeah, so we'll pop links to those in your episode notes. On to Squiz Press, a little horn tooting for us here at the Squiz this week.
Why not?
Absolutely. The Australian podcast ranker came out, and drumroll, Jodie.
A big shout out to Squiz Kids, who were number 2 in the kids and family section.
So good. They are just killing it over there, Bryce, Christy and the team. So if you've got kids aged 8 to 12 who want to stay informed across the news,
I've
Squiz
got 2 of them. They love it.
Love it. Bang on. Also, the Squiz Today podcast is sitting at number 9 in the top. So in the top 10 still.
Really?
All podcasts in Australia. Yeah. Big shout out to Andrew and Alice and the whole team there. I reckon that's us done for the day for the weekly wrap, but we will be talking to you all again tomorrow in What's Coming Up.
Yeah, chat then.